Welcome to All Pro Football Data. My name is Jim Coburn, and today's episode we're talking about 2024 NFL outlook on Chicago Bears wide receiver Rome Odunze. We will look at his pre-draft profile, team analysis, schedule analysis, and his week-by-week matchups to see what the obstacles and opportunities await him in 2024. Stay tuned into the end of the video where I reveal the overall future outlook for Rome Odunze, not only in 2024 but also in the future as we get into the data. So first off, the setup. Rome Odunze was drafted by the Bears at pick 9 in this year's draft. The typical expectation of a player taken there, based on approximate value data since 1969, is 95.85 out of 100. So essentially, you're expected to get a prospect who's 95, about 96% better than every NFL player in the NFL when you pick a player at number 9. So those are very high expectations. But what makes Odunze unique is that he has a great draft position along with a high-end data score. And this will be one of the first instances of a quarterback and wide receiver both being drafted together in the top 10. So I did a lot of research really looking at all the previous draft classes, even going back further than 1969. And I've never seen a situation where a quarterback was taken in the top 10 and a wide receiver was also taken in the top 10. That just doesn't happen that often. There definitely have been some teams that took a quarterback and another player in the first round, but not a quarterback and a wide receiver. That's just not something that happens that often, which makes this a very unique situation to project. So the first thing we need to look at before we get into that aspect of in terms of projecting Rome Odunze on the team that he's on is we have to look at his pre-draft profile because what he did in college can also inform what he might do at the NFL level. So starting with his offensive market share data, he had a 75 percentile receiving market share score, 90 percentile in terms of total offensive market share, and then 83 percentile in terms of touchdown market share. All those numbers are pretty solid numbers overall for him. When you look at his efficiency scores, this is one area where he just excelled at. He was in the 80 percentile in terms of yards per reception and touchdowns per touch. All those areas pretty much are in the All-Pro average, Pro Bowl average, and starter averages at the position. So he hits all the averages that you need to hit from an efficiency standpoint. Taking a look at his athleticism traits, he did everything. Again, not unlike some wide receivers. That was the one thing that kind of was a pet peeve. Is how many wide receivers don't do everything at the combine. But he did everything, and he had an 89 percentile explosion score, 85 percentile in terms of speed, and 93 percentile in terms of flexibility for his size. Just fantastic numbers for him based on athleticism traits, and has elite level athleticism overall in many ways. When you get to his adjusted production traits, based on his adjusted production, his age, his MSA rating, and his pass rating all give him the ability to have Pro Bowl and All Pro potential. He's within the averages of Pro Bowl and All Pro players, which makes him a great candidate to kind of hit those numbers. So great numbers overall for him based on data. Now, what makes Odunze a prize fantasy football asset is that the overall EAV or data profile for Neighbors was 96.13 out of 100. Since 1969, wide receivers with a 96 or higher data score taken in the top 10 of the NFL draft are as follows: J.J. Stokes, Jim Seymour, Irving Fryer, Al Toon, Troy Williamson, Corin Robinson, Justin Blackman, Peter Warwick, James Lofton, Plexico Burris, and Reggie Williams. There's a lot of other first round wide receivers to talk about, but this was sort of the range of possibilities that he tested it based on his data score. And you can't just do one-to-one rankings that way because there's just so much data to work with. They're not all exactly the same type of prospect from a data perspective, but this is sort of the gumbo approach to it. And he hit a really decent area of players in terms of top 10 players. Now, with that list and additional wide receiver information, we can formulate a year one potential based on the current roster. So with that information that we have in terms of what type of wide receiver Rome Odunze could be based on how prior wide receivers have performed in the past and how he tested with them, we can look at the Chicago Bears now in terms of what their offense is going to look like. So looking at the Bears 2023 team analysis, the Bears ended 2023 with a below average offense. It wasn't terrible, but it was below average. They ranked 39.48 out of 100 in terms of offensive single ranking score, which is a data point from Pro Football Reference. And Justin Fields had a QBR percentile score of 43.79 out of 100. So they had a below average offense and a below average quarterback. The good news is that Justin Fields is no longer with the team. The inconvenient news is that we will have to project Rome Odunze with a rookie quarterback coming into the fold. So not only will you kind of have to project, what Rome Odunze might do, but you're also going to have to project what Caleb Williams might end up becoming, which is going to be a tall task to do, but I'm going to try to do it, guys, with data. So we're going to do our best with that. So taking a look at the incomparable situation of the Bears in 2023. In order to project Rome Odunze, we will also have to project Caleb Williams to a certain extent. From my research, as I stated before, that I've done from 1969 to 2023, I did go a little bit further than that, like the 1950s. There wasn't much there, but I've not found a draft class where the quarterback was taken in the first round, in addition to a wide receiver also taken in the first round. And especially the ramifications of both being taken in the top 10, and the fact that both are 90 plus percentile players or prospects compared to their positional peers. That this puts an extra kink in projections, but we can make our way through it. So one thing we have to look at, okay, is what type of quarterback is Caleb Williams. And Caleb Williams in many ways had an incredible BQS score and a great CQS score. So his best quarterback score was fantastic, and his average quarterback score was also fantastic for Caleb Williams, based on the numbers. And when you look at Caleb Williams compared to the players he really tested the most as, based on his draft status and everything else like that, these were the quarterbacks that really stuck out based on his BQS, his CQS, and where he was drafted. One of them is Sam Bradford. Another one is Robert Griffin III, Peyton Manning, and then Steve Young. Steve Young, of course, was taken in the supplemental draft, but I think he's an interesting guy to put here because there was a lot of similarities between Caleb Williams and Steve Young to a certain extent. But that's a good baseline for Williams because he is entering a situation that is a lot different from what Peyton Manning and Steve Young and Sam Bradford encountered. So what I mean by that is this, Peyton Manning went to a terrible football team on the Colts. His first year there was just terrible. They didn't really have anybody on the Colts. And not only that, after that season, they traded their best offensive piece in Marshall Faulk to kind of improve things. So there was a lot of things that were not the best for him. Steve Young, also similar situation. He was on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in the 80s, man. Like, they were just awful. When you look at Robert Griffin III, that's a little bit different situation. There was a lot of interesting pieces there from an offensive standpoint. And Sam Bradford went to the St. Louis Rams, who were just kind of an average to below average team. Of course, they had Steven Jackson. He was still there at that time, but for the most part, not the best NFL team. Caleb Williams is going to have legitimately two number one wide receivers uh, from the past and present in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. And on top of that, he's going to have Rome Odunze and Cole Kmet and an average offensive line at best. Again, the tackles are really good. The interior probably needs to improve a little bit. But, we can debate different things like that. But the point is this. Caleb Williams is going to a really great situation. He's not going to be the same as a Peyton Manning or a Steve Young or Robert Griffin to a certain extent, or Sam Bradford. He's going to a much better team overall. And because of that, I think there might be some potential for him to really do better than what his average is. But the average incoming rookie data point. So again, this is the working average for me based on the players that Caleb Williams really tested as is 49.38, which is average. So he might be worse than that. He might be 26 percentile. He might be 10 percentile. He might just be awful. But for the most part, players who tested like Caleb Williams usually average about 49 percentile in terms of their rookie season. So with that data and with the parameters that were set, we can take a look and see, okay, what are some of the similar wide receivers that went to a similar situation where the year one quarterback was sort of average, and then the offense also was sort of below average. And these are the wide receivers that really stuck out. Sammy Watkins, Devontae Smith, Michael Crabtree, Calvin Johnson were the ones that really stuck out the most based on that data. Roy Williams, Drake London, Braylon Edwards, AJ Green, and then Julio Jones is kind of on the upper echelon of that, but that can kind of give you an idea of the type of situation he's going to end up in. However, based on the data work that I've done, wide receiver market share versus QBR for wide receivers, there really isn't any correlation between year one production and the QBR of a quarterback. So, in other words, uh, it's usually just about the talent of the wide receiver guy. So a lot of times people want to blame wide receivers from not really doing well year one because of the quarterback or because of the offense. But the data suggests that there really isn't much of a correlation between how good of an offense you're on or the type of quarterback that you're on and what you do in terms of your NFL market share. Again, a lot of that again comes back to your ability to translate to the NFL level. Similar results are seen with the offensive single ranking system. So again, when you take a look at wide receiver market share year one, year two, and year three, there's not much of a correlation there. I mean, there's a slight correlation for year two and year three, but not significant enough to really say that based on the type of quarterback that you have or the type of offense that you have, will lead to more market share as a rookie wide receiver. That's essentially what I'm saying here. And based on the data that I've done so far and the players that hit the parameters that I suggested, there's not much there to really suggest that. So that just is what it is, and it just is what it is with that. So what does this mean? This means that whether Odunze succeeds in 2024 or not, it will not be dependent on Caleb Williams. It is realistically that how well Odunze translates and adjusts to the NFL environment is what is most going to be important to his NFL rookie success. You know, we oftentimes want to blame a player making it or not on another player when the reality is that individual player has more to do with their ability to produce than the person throwing them the football. So one good example of this is like with Andre Johnson. Andre Johnson went to the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans were one of the worst teams in the NFL, one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. And Andre Johnson still was producing significantly as a rookie wide receiver. And yes, his numbers did get better as he got a better offense and a better quarterback, but he still was producing as a great NFL wide receiver, regardless of the talent that was throwing him the football. So again, great game is going to break out no matter what. Talent is always going to win out. It's not about the situation. The situation helps, of course. It's helpful when you have a great quarterback. It helps when you have a great offense, but it doesn't help as much as you think it does. It really comes down to the wide receiver in terms of their ability to translate, and that's the basics of it. One other thing to mention before we get into some other stuff is the average NFL market share for a year one player based on the parameters that I set. Again, 95 percentile or higher NFL players. The average market share for them is 69 percentile, and then it bumps up to 73 in year two and then 74 in year three. So oftentimes, what a wide receiver does as a rookie will usually inform what their career might be like at the NFL level. So if they enter the NFL as sort of an 85 percentile productive guy or 90 percentile productive player, a lot of times that will inform what happens in year two and in year three. It may take them a little bit to really break out in year two and year three. You know, that's the biggest thing is a lot of times wide receivers might take till the sophomore season to break out or the third season to break out or the fourth season to break out. You hope that's not the case, but sometimes that's happened in the past. But for the most part, the rookie season is usually it might be underwhelming, and that's okay. It's okay to have an underwhelming rookie season. Even in today's NFL, it's okay. It's okay. You give them some space to breathe, to live. But that's just the thing to also remember about Odunze is that even if he doesn't have a great first year, give him some time. He might develop. You know, give him that space to grow and develop as a player. Don't just write him off right away, because the basic stuff about the NFL is if you just stay in there and keep developing, good things will happen. Especially if you have the talent from day one, in many ways. When you get to the offense for the Bears, so this is taking a look at the overall offense based on data. The Bears are stacked, man. The offensive line does have some issues. You know, you look at the center position and the left guard position. Those guys have not really they haven't got a lot of starts in their career, and their overall efficiency, could improve a little bit. But the tackles are fantastic. Nate Davis is also pretty good. But when you look at the tight end position, Cole Kmet, decent. Keenan Allen, good player. DJ Moore, fantastic player. DeAndre Swift, not the most efficient running back, but definitely decent. So the talent is here offensively for this to really be a top 10 offense or top five even at the NFL level. So don't write the Bears off. I know they have a rookie quarterback, a rookie wide receiver, but they have a lot of offensive talent here that's just waiting to explode. And I think everybody who's a Bears fan would love for them to explode in many ways. And I think there's a lot of data here that suggests that could be the case. Now, the positives for Neighbors has going for him in year one. Rome Odunze is going to an offense that has two already established vets in Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. That's important because he can learn from them. Not necessarily that they're going to mentor him, because regardless of how people feel, veteran wide receivers are not going to mentor somebody who's going to replace them. Okay, I mean, you would love for that to be the case. You'd love for everybody to be sunshines and rainbows and kumbaya and all that kind of stuff, but that's just not the case, man. NFL wide receivers, it's a professional game. You're not going to help your coworker to get better at what they're doing in a lot of ways. You're gonna have them. You might give them some pointers here and there if you like them, if you have a good relationship with them, but other than that, you're not just gonna force it and just go, I'm gonna teach him something. There has to be that chemistry. There has to be stuff like that, and a lot of times that just isn't there. So again, it's good to have them there because he can watch them and see what a professional does. Keenan Allen is again one of the most professional wide receivers in the NFL in terms of what he's done in his career. DJ Moore, same difference. So I think it's good for him to end up in a situation where he has those veterans to really learn from and pick their brain on a lot of things. And even if he doesn't pick their brain, just to see them, see through actions what they do to prepare week in and week out, what they do to, help their bodies out in terms of, protecting their bodies and recovering and all that kind of stuff. All those things are really good for him. The Bears also have a decent tight end, Cole Kmet, as I stated before. But the problem is that he will be competing with already established veterans. So this is a situation where, unlike Malik Neighbors and Xavier Worthy and Marvin Harrison Jr. even, the Keenan Allen and DJ Moore are legitimate number one wide receivers in the NFL. You put them on any team, and they're going to be the number one wide receiver there. So he's going to be competing against those guys for targets and touches. So again, year one, I don't think is going to be the best year for him to really pop off. Again, he might do really well, and you would expect and you would hope for that to be the case. And I just want him to just be really efficient in terms of his targets. That's my big thing. As a fan of football, I would just want him to be really good in terms of efficiency. Even if he doesn't get the crazy amount of targets and yardage and stuff like other past NFL rookie wide receivers have got, I just want to see him have an impact. But I think he might be less impactful due to Keenan Allen and DJ Moore being there, getting targets away from him and everything else like that. So that's the only thing that kind of worries me in terms of his year one projection, in terms of redraft. But dynasty wise, I think the sky's the limit for him, definitely. Now, when you get to the actual schedule for the Bears, so the schedule for them is going to be interesting. They will not have um, a lot of great matchups towards the back end of the schedule. So it's interesting because the Bears, the very beginning of their schedule, they don't have a lot of NFC North matchups. So they put everything, the Vikings and the Lions and the Green Bay Packers, all those matchups are going to be on the other half of the schedule. So a lot of the games they're going to be playing early on are going to be winnable, and kind of will help them kind of get their feet wet in a lot of ways. So I think the very beginning of the season for the Bears will pop off because when you look at the difference between the offense and the defense against the Titans, the Texans, the Colts, the Rams, the Panthers, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Washington Redskins, or Commanders, excuse me, all those are decent, numbers for them in many ways in terms of data. But then you have kind of a dry spot. The Cardinals have a very good defense based on data. The Patriots have a good defense based on data. The Packers also have a really solid defense, as well as the Lions, as well as the 49ers. The Seattle Seahawks are not as bad, but for the most part, you can see here that when it comes to fantasy football winning time, Not a lot of really good matchups. But the only thing that I like about this schedule, though, is that because of the fact that Rome Odunze would be kind of the third option in a way, in many ways, he could get some favorable matchups. So again, NFL is a lot about matchups, and even if there is a guy like Keenan Allen or DJ Moore who are kind of getting attention, Rome Odunze could use that to his advantage and really show up in the games that matter. But taking a look at the games here for them, starting with the Tennessee Titans, when you look at their secondary, they have some weak spots here. Chidobe Awuzie, data-wise, not the best. Great data grade, but his overall NFL positional AV has not been the best. Elijah Molden at safety is not there. Amani Hooker has also been kind of in terms of his actual contributions in the NFL. So this is a game that's definitely winnable, and a lot of matchups I think they could take advantage of. So this might be a walk in the park for them in many ways. So I don't want to jump to conclusions too early, but this could be a game that I think Rome Odunze could go off, along with the Bears' offense in general, based on the defense that they're going to play here. Then when you get to the Houston Texans, the pass rush is really good for the Texans in terms of Will Anderson Jr. and Daniel Hunter, but the secondary, Jeff Okude, Jimmy Ward, Kamari Lassiter, those guys are slow cornerbacks that can mirror well to a certain extent, but they're slow nevertheless. And I think this is another game where there are matchup chances and potentials for Rome Odunze to have a good game against the Texans. And I think it might even be kind of a back and forth type thing here. So I'm kind of excited. I'm really excited about this game actually. Then of course we get to the Colts. The Colts have a cornerback situation that's not the best. I don't know why they didn't draft a cornerback, but they did it. And as a result, they're going to pay the ramifications for it. On top of that, the free safety situation is a little inconsistent. So this is another game that I think the Bears will have some advantages on offense compared to the defense they're going to be facing here. Then, of course, you get to the Rams. They have some inconsistent nickel cornerbacks here, inconsistent safeties. The pass rush will be interesting to see what Jared Verse and Braden Fisk do as rookies in this particular matchup. But I think there are opportunities for even a guy like Odunze to really shine in this game, as well as the Bears' offense in general. Then, of course, you get the Carolina Panthers. The front four is really the biggest thing that really sticks out the most for the Carolina Panthers, but the cornerbacks, the safeties, all those other positions, not so much. So this is another game that I think there are going to be a lot of advantages for the Bears offense, and as a result, Rome Odunze is going to eat in this particular game. Then, of course, we get to the Jacksonville Jaguars, another situation where the secondary is a little inconsistent. They have the potential to be decent, but they haven't really shown up yet. So, and I think this particular game also has a chance of being sort of a back and forth type matchup because the Jacksonville Jaguars do have a good offense, but their defense is not the best. So this could be kind of a shootout type situation, and Odunze could benefit from that situation in many ways. Then, of course, we get to the Washington Commanders. Secondary here is probably one of the worst secondaries in the NFL. And I don't think this matchup is going to be very favorable for the Commanders at all. I think this is going to be a game where they're going to be able to go off. Now, the front seven is better than the back end. So if they get substantial pass rush, that'll help out the secondary a lot. But if that isn't the case, this could definitely be a game that gets out of hand early because of the talent that the Bears have on offense. Then, of course, we get to week 9 with the Arizona Cardinals. They have a pretty solid defense in terms of the potential. The potential for their nickel cornerbacks and their regular cornerbacks, etc., is sky high for them. But they definitely need to kind of develop a little bit more. So we'll see what the Arizona Cardinals ultimately become. But they have been a really solid secondary, especially with Buda Baker at free safety there. So I'll be excited to see what happens here. But this might be the first game that they might have some issues, if you will. Then, of course, we get to the Patriots. The Patriots have some really talented cornerbacks here. Christian Gonzalez, incredibly talented. Kyle Duggar, one of the best safeties in the NFL in many ways. And then when you look at the secondary here, a lot of stuff there. Now, they do have a little bit of a weird defense, because they got Jelani Tave, who is more of like a pursuit linebacker, and then Matthew Judon, who's more of a pass rushing linebacker. So it's kind of interesting how they kind of have their uh, rankings here. Now, this is not going to be the final roster once they face it, but this is definitely going to be a matchup. I think there are opportunities, but Christian Gonzalez is a very talented cornerback. But at the same time, I think there will be opportunities for Odunze to maybe take advantage of, a slot corner here. Then we get to the Green Bay Packers. Great defense overall. Added a lot of really good pieces this offseason in terms of Edrin Cooper and Javon Bullard. And this will be a really tough matchup in terms of that. So this will be probably one of the first big tests for the Chicago Bears this year. And on top of that, it's a divisional opponent. So this is going to be a really tough test, but I think they have the talent to overcome it. This is going to be the first game where you're going to figure out if the Bears are legit or not. I would not be surprised if the Bears had a really good win uh, record coming into this game. Excuse me. So we'll see what happens. And of course, we get to the Minnesota Vikings. Their secondary is in construction, and the regular overall defense is also in construction. They lost a lot of talent in terms of pass rushers on this team, and I don't know how they replace that overall. Now, they do have a rookie who might kind of be all the way where he needs to be, Dallas Turner. But overall, even with Dallas Turner possibly being in the fold, there's just not a lot of defensive talent here. So I think the Vikings might have one of the worst defenses in the NFC North this year, and I think the Bears can take advantage of that. So, what I'm excited to see about this game, though, is you're going to have J.J. McCarthy versus Caleb Williams. Both those guys are rookies. Both those guys are very talented, and I think I'm excited to see what happens in this game. But other than that, I don't see this as being much of an obstacle for the Bears to be really successful. Then, of course, you get to the Detroit Lions. I have the Lions as potentially one of the best defenses this year. Based on data, they have a lot of players that haven't really reached their peak yet, but could get there. And then you had guys like Tyrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, even Melifonwu at strong safety. All those guys have the potential to be very good NFL NFL secondary, one of the best NFL secondaries in many ways. So we'll see what happens this season, but they have the potential to do that. And this is again is another big test game for them. Kind of like the Green Bay Packers. This is going to be one of the first tests to see, okay, if the Bears get out of this game with a win, maybe we can see them winning the NFC North in many ways. If they beat the Packers, if they beat the Lions, of course, beating the Vikings, that 3-0 in the division, they could legitimately be going into week 14 as the favorite to win the NFC North, which would be bonkers. But this team is a lot different than what you can expect it to be in so many ways. There's so much potential for this team. I'm not trying to hype it up too much, but this is probably going to be one of the better Bears seasons in many ways based on data and based on the season that they're facing. Then, of course, we get to the 49ers. Now, the 49ers are probably another big test. Great defense, solid front seven. The secondary has some holes in it, though. Renardo Green is a rookie, and he's not the best rookie ever. So there is potential for Odunze to kind of go off and might be the difference maker in this game. So this is a big game, I think, for him to kind of go out there and be like, bang, in terms of really helping out the team. Because I do think there are some matchups here where there might be some issues, but for the most part, great situation here for him. Then, of course, we get to week 15 with the Minnesota Vikings again. Similar situation, secondary is a little inconsistent, but the front seven is the biggest eyesore. We'll see how they develop, but that definitely is something that needs to improve. Then you get to week 16 with the Lions again. Like I said before, they could potentially have the best secondary in the NFL, but we'll see what happens with that. Then, of course, you got the Seattle Seahawks. They have some secondary pieces that are good, but also some pieces like Michael Jackson that are not the best. And we'll kind of see what happens there with them. But this could definitely be a game that they can win. It's definitely winnable. And then the last game of the season, which could be the deciding factor in terms of who wins the NFC North, is the Green Bay Packers, and they'll be facing them again. And so this is going to be a very interesting game for them overall. Overall outlook. So taking a look at Rome Odunze, and again, I'm putting up the most comparable players to him based on data, based on the quarterback that he might have in terms of a projection, and based on the offense prior year. I think the offense might be better than this. I think Caleb Williams could be better than this. But this is just a um, trying to find the best way to put this, a conservative projection. So Odunze is in a great position to produce, but I don't believe it'll be year one that he really has a great rookie season. So again, if I was a betting man, which I'm not really a betting man, but if I was, I would definitely put my chips on guys like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors, just because of the fact that they don't have as much competition in terms of the other wide receivers on the team compared to the other players. But at the same time, if Caleb Williams puts in a historic performance as a rookie, then Odunze could have like a Torrey Holt like rookie season where his market share is not the best, but because of how much receiving or passing yardage, if you will, on the team and touchdowns, etc., he could have 700 to 1,000 yards receiving with 4 to 6 touchdowns. That's definitely doable. That's again, not the most realistic projection, but if you're just going to go all in on the Bears, that definitely is something that could happen. So just keep that in mind. I just think that guys like Moore and Allen are probably going to have better production overall. It's just that Odunze will have to have the offense kind of do a lot of the heavy lifting, basically being like a really high octane offense. And then he's kind of eating off of that, but he's not eating as much as guys like Moore and Allen. But Allen and Moore are eating so much that he just is going to benefit from that. So that's kind of what I mean by that. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, again, are established veterans that will command more attention. But once Allen leaves in year 1, 2, or 3, then Odunze, I think, can establish himself at making himself a real legitimate threat on the outside. So again, this is a situation kind of like with Larry Fitzgerald, in terms of his rookie season. Because a lot of people forget this, but Larry Fitzgerald wasn't the best wide receiver as a rookie. Not to say talent-wise, but just production-wise. He didn't really start hitting it off until the next season. And I think that definitely is something with Odunze, and you'll be surprised. There's a lot of really great wide receivers that their first rookie season wasn't the best. There were a lot of reasons behind that, but I think that's going to be the case with Rome Odunze. Again, it's not that I don't think he's a very talented player. He is. But I think the situation he put himself into, or at least that he landed himself into, is one where, yes, is he going to be productive? Yes, but is he going to be the best rookie wide receiver out of all the rookie wide receivers? I would love to see it happen, definitely. But I think that it's more likely to say that year 2 and year 3 are going to be the years that he really establishes himself as the big dog, as the top dog. When guys like Keenan Allen retire or DJ Moore, moves on to another team, we'll just have to see. But that's kind of what my outlook is. Again, great situation, great player. But I think the overall outlook for this year may not be the best. I think year 2 and year 3 will be better. And I can prove it based on statistics, but I think that year 2 and year 3 is where he'll really establish himself. And year 1 might be a sort of a test year where he'll have some really great moments, but I think there'll be other rookie wide receivers who are in better situations to produce more and be more of the guy and be dependent on more often than, say, Odunze. So again, not to say he's going to have a bad rookie season. It's just that the amount of other targets that are here may not be beneficial for him. So with all that stuff out of the way, thank you guys so much for watching in terms of this Outlook video. If you like videos like this, if you really do, like, comment, subscribe, share this video, do all that kind of stuff for me to do more videos like this. And also, let me know in the comment section below what videos you guys want to see. What rookies this year do you want to see? What other videos you might want to see in terms of like a general Outlook video like this? Let me know in the comment section below. Check out my other work at patreon.com/jcoburn. Also check out my X, formerly known as Twitter account, @Geometrics. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.